Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to take a simple sketch, it can be an abstract drawing, and convert it into a high quality realistic image. Whether you want a 3D render or a photographic look, you can generate any variation you like. You have total control. The final result can stay very close to the original sketch, or you can also randomize it, basically let the AI vary the output depending on your preference. This is a creative workflow. It's designed to adapt to this specific scenario, basically taking a simple abstract sketch and converting it into a photorealistic look or a 3D look. For example, here are several different variations of the same character. Even if you don't consider yourself an artist or you don't have that digital drawing capabilities, it's totally fine. You can simply draw on a piece of paper, scan it, or take a photo, and you will still get excellent results. As you can see here, we can go from a hand-drawn sketch to a 3D cartoon style. It can also be a highly detailed, realistic version of the same sketch. The workflow is flexible enough that a single input image can take in completely different creative directions. For example, one sketch, I can generate an alien. This is a robot, animal-like character, or even like chibi version of the character. Worst case scenario, you can even scribble something very basic, for example here in MS Paint, and use it in the same process. Now for fun, you can roll the dice basically and randomize the output just to see what happens. While randomizing might produce some unexpected results, it's a great way to find inspiration in my opinion. If you'd like to quickly test out the workflow, you can use the built-in image. For instance, here I have an animated, well, not animated, but more like a 3D render. And here is the more realistic version. You can see the detail in the fur here. And if we zoom in on the knee of this character, you can see how it basically translated those rough input into a realistic texture. If you're not happy with the subject, you can swap the character for something completely different. Here we have a cat, alien, it depends on you. Now I've divided the workflow into two main paths, a realistic template and a cartoony 3D template. Now both of these can have the guided generation option or without the guided generation option. Basically, you will have 4 variations of this. Now, before we get started, if your drawing is loose, sort of abstract, perhaps you are just experimenting and you don't have a specific goal in mind, then I recommend that you randomize the generation and then pick the best results out of it. However, if you have a specific version in your mind, then you can guide the AI. This is where this guided generation comes in. For example, here I knew I wanted alien heads stacked on top of each other. Then in the back, I wanted to have crystals and then flower details. The legs, I wanted to have some kind of tree-like legs in there. I've used the guided generation section to prompt for these specific elements, and here you can see the result. On the left I have the 3D render, on the right I have the realistic version. Now let's jump inside of ComfyUI. For this setup I am using the Flux.2 Klein workflow. It's modified for this specific type of creative work. I've chosen to go with the GGUF version, specifically the Q8. If your hardware cannot run the Q8, you can always swap it for a lower quantization. You will find the load diffusion model, clip, VA nodes here. I've included a node box with all the necessary information. Of course, I'm going to update this before sharing the workflow. The setup is straightforward. First, make sure your models are selected. You can use any quantization. Like I said, this is a one-time configuration. From here, your main controls are limited to just 3 areas: style control, load image, guided generation. At the top, we have the toggle for realistic or cartoony 3D. When the toggle is off, it generates a 3D cartoony style. When it is on, like this, you will basically get a realistic version of your sketch. Load image, self-explanatory. You will put your input sketch image here. This is the only mandatory node. The workflow will not function without an initial input image. At the bottom here, we have guided generation. It is a text box where you can type in prompt. If you leave the guided generation box blank, the workflow will interpret the output based solely on the input image. For example, if I run this sketch, well, let's just say stick figure now, it will follow the image and it will basically extract the colors. In here, we have some kind of metallic material that is being drawn. If I want to change the material or I want to change the subject entirely, this is where the guided generation comes in. For example, let's say I type in a cockroach creature. The workflow will interpret the input image and adapt it to the prompt. So as long as you have a clear vision, define it in this box. Think of it as if it is blank, it's like randomize whatever gets interpreted by the AI. But if you have a clear vision, you will paste your prompt in here. And then at the top, don't forget to toggle between realistic or cartoony style. All right, let me show you how you can create your own initial images. You can use any drawing application. If you don't have anything available, I recommend using this free online drawing application. At the top here, you will get simple shapes like circles and just block out your design. For example, let's try to do a futuristic car. Let's say we have 3 tires in front and then 2 tires in the back. As you can see, prompting for this is going to be very difficult unless you have a LoRa for it. Next, select your composition, export it as a PNG. You will need to save your sketch inside ComfyUI input folder. Now let's go back into the workflow. You might need to press R on your keyboard to refresh the list. Then select the new image from the load image drop-down menu. Since I already know that my sketch represents some kind of futuristic vehicle, I'm going to specify in the text box here, the guided generation, that I will need. I'm just going to go for 3 front tires, 2 back tires, something like this. You can be as descriptive as you want. For the first result, okay, so if your first result isn't exactly as you've envisioned, you can simply generate again. The generation process uses random noise, which means every time you click on generate, you will get a randomized seed. And this is going to give you different outputs every time. Now, most of the ComfyUI nodes are collapsed here. These collapsed nodes are pre-configured. So you don't have to worry about the technical connection or what is the best options for these settings. And just keep generating until you get something that you can use. So that's it. This workflow is inspired by a question from my Patreon member regarding how to be more creative with ComfyUI. While I think true creativity depends on your specific goals, it is true that this setup is optimized for sketch to realistic or to 3D renders. You can build similar workflows for pixel art maybe oil painting or different style. So your creativity will guide what or which workflow you're going to use. Hopefully I'm making sense here. All the links will be in the description below. I will have the notes within the workflow updated that will guide you on where to place the models, at least the ones I'm using in this workflow, as well as the custom nodes you will need to install. Thank you for watching until the very end. Have a nice day. Take care. I will see you next time.